to your parents, but I know
Absolutely.
deep down inside, because it was someone that you knew, your parents knew his parents, so it put you in that situation as of it was something that you felt you had to keep secret.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then again, you think that you're the only one. And at that time, 21 years ago, the resources that are available now were not very available or prevalent then. So I really did not know who to talk to. And
Right.
again, it sounds very easy to be able to say you can talk to your parents,
Mm-hmm.
but there was a part of me that felt that I was responsible for the behavior. So really just not knowing how to say that I needed help to my friends or my family was very difficult. So I just kind of suffered in silence while I just tried to figure out on my own what to do. But I wanted to say I did not stay because I was in love because I thought I was loved.
Mm-hmm.
I stayed out of fear, and there are definitely people that will embark a level of fear on you to where you don't feel like that there is a way out. And I felt like I had no way out.
Yes. Well, as a woman, and as a parent, and as a woman that does the type of work that I do, where I have to be sympathetic and empathetic, and be able to provide love, care, and resources to those who are affected by abuse. I want you to know that I truly, deep down in my heart, want to let you know that that was not your fault.
I definitely realized that.
It was not, because you cannot control a behavior of sexual activity.
Yes.
That's something you cannot control. And when you have been taken advantage of, I know a lot of women feel that it's my fault because I was there. Oh, I should have tried to fight him off. But then when you get into that fight mode, that's when he becomes violent.
Yes.
Sometimes women lose their life because they're fighting to save what is so precious to them.
Yes.
And so I just want you to realize and to know that it was not your fault, and that your steps have been ordered, because I know that in the professional field, sometimes we can't open up and share
Yes.
from our past. And if we do, we get looked down upon by our higher chain, someone in human resources, or someone else that feels like that you're bringing information in that shouldn't be shared. But I just want you to know that what you are doing, you are going to help so many young women and so many teens out here that have been affected, who have been taken advantage of, who are in domestic violence relationships, who are going through sexual assaults on a daily basis. This is something that occurs, like I said, every 98 seconds. So this is something that has to, everyone has to take a stand and become an advocate and speak on this. If you've been assaulted, please, it's not your fault. Get help. Talk to someone. And and there are resources available for anyone that's dealing with sexual assaults. And you can contact RAINN, which is www.rainn.org. And they are a 24-hour national hotline that works with victims of rape and sexual assaults and violence. From the study that I did, it says that a majority of child victims are from the age of 12 to 17. I do know that in the work I do in domestic violence relationships, there are teen intimate partner rape.
Yes.
And so these are the teens 12 to 17 who are dealing with being taken advantage of, who are being assaulted, who are being intimidated and forced into relationships and forced into sex. So any teen, anyone listening, please understand this is dangerous and this is not your fault. Never blame yourself for someone else's sexual behaviors and their sexual gratifications and sexual wants and needs. Those people need to get help. There's something wrong with those people that are out raping and intimidating women. They are sick. So please remember, it's not your fault.
I think lots of times people think that because they are in relationships that it's not rape. When it's something that you do not welcome, when it's something that you do not want, when you say no,
Right.
and that no has been ignored, it is being forced upon you, and it is rape. It
Yes.
doesn't matter how long you've known the person.
That's right. That's right. And yes, rape is anything that is unconsensual. If you say no, the answer is no. That's rape. If anyone tries to bully you into having sex and you say no, that's rape. Anyone tries to intimidate you and say that they're going to do something to you, bully you into having sex, that is rape. Please understand, rape is rape. If you say no, you don't even have to say no 3 or 4 times. If you say no once, that's rape. No one has the power to take advantage and take anything from you that you do not want anyone to have. Through the statistics that is now being published, it says that 55% of rapes happen near your home.
This was probably 10 or 15 minutes away from my home.
Wow.
I was actually kidnapped from my house. I think one of the things that you look for from the person that has harmed you is you want to believe that they are sorry.
Yes.
And even if you're not thinking about going back, you want to believe that there has been some ounce of humanity and they realize what they do.
right.
So when I was approached with, I just want to talk to you and tell you how sorry I am about the things that I've done prior to the rape, I welcomed that because I think that I thought that would make me feel better.
right.
But there was a plan that he had,
Mm-hmm.
and I was kidnapped from my home. I was held for 3 days. And during that time, I was raped and I was beaten. And I knew that at the end, or once he was tired, that I was going to be dead. That's just what I felt, and that's what I believed, and that's what I was told. Until I felt that one of us were going to leave this earth, but I was going to do everything I could to make sure that it wasn't me.
Wow. Oh my God. You know, oh my God. I am so glad that you are still here today, because when you actually look at that, the truth is that you are in a domestic violence relationship,
Yes.
and he just took it to a next level
Yes.
and kidnapped you and held you hostage for 3 days.
Yes. And once I felt that I was strong enough to be able to confide in my father what was happening, he definitely gave me the courage to let me know that I did not have to go through this alone, and that we were
Yes.
going to go to the police.
Yes.
And prior to going to the police is when the rape occurred. He wanted to do everything he could to stop the next level of events,
Right.
with involving law enforcement. And that's when everything took what I thought could not be, it couldn't get any worse. It did. It definitely did.
And so once you went to the police, did they do any sexual assault kits and
Yes.
collect DNA and give you any type of resources and counseling that were needed?
Yes, they performed a rape kit and they took pictures, which is something that is very difficult to go through, especially when you've been traumatized and you're still living in that moment.
Yes.
And I did receive resources, and at that time, the House of Ruth was one of the more popular organizations to be a part of and to receive assistance and counseling, which is something that I did.
Wow. And what eventually happened in your domestic violence relationship, which was kidnapped, raped, held hostage, intimidated, assaulted,
Attempted murder.
Yeah, attempted murder, everything that what makes up domestic violence. You were in it, and it was something that was unknown because of his type of behavior and personalities, of him being so nice and so sweet, and you knew his family, he knew your family. But when the real him came out, it came out with the revenge
Yes.
of hate, of whatever was in him. It came out.
Full force. Definitely came out full force. And Again, in the beginning, the subtle signs are so unnoticeable. There were things like what I thought was concern about me getting home from work in a timely fashion. He would say, you know, I thought you were supposed to be home at a certain time. Just wanted to make sure you're okay. So at 26, I just felt loved and adored, and he just cares about me.
Yes.
But all of those little things collectively became one huge controlling factor. And honestly, once I realized I was in this situation, I was in so deep, I didn't know how to get out. And on occasion, there would be a back slap or a telephone thrown at me or hands around my neck. And I was definitely in a position oftentimes to lie to my parents. I would sneak home so they wouldn't see my face. I would stay at my friends' houses, things like that. And I became a liar because I needed to do everything I could to cover up what I was embarrassed about and what I thought I could not reach out to friends and family about. So it was a very lonely, lonely time for me. Very lonely.
Yes, and this is the typical domestic violence relationship because the abuser always wants to know exactly where you are. They want to know who you're talking to. They want to know what you're doing. They want to make sure that you're home at this time, that time, and they monitor if you're at one
how
location.
You dress, who you speak with,
Yes.
how you talk.
Yes.
When you look at people, it's automatically assumed that you were with other people.
Yes. And, you know, all of that is that person's own insecurities.
Yes.
And that person's own unself-love for himself and lack of respect for others. Definitely a lack of respect for loving a woman and for being in a healthy relationship. And this is what a lot of women get confused on, is because they think that, okay, because he's asking me what time I'm going to be home, that, oh, you know, he just cares about me. He just want to make sure that I make it home safely. All of that is not what it is. It's control. He wants to make sure that you're home. And if you're not home when you say you're going to get home, he's going to beat you. And this is what happens in 98% of those domestic violence relationships. 98% of the time, they will beat the heck out of you if you arrive home 1 minute late. You don't even have to be 5 seconds late. From what one woman told me, is that she drove home and he was out in the yard waiting, ran to the car and just started beating the heck out of her head, hitting her head on the steering wheel because she was at the red light. And when that red light stopped, when it changed to red, she had to stop. And so he's out there monitoring to her at the red light, stating that she's late because she says she's 2 minutes down the street. Now you see, this don't make any sense at all. Any sense.
And the behavior is not always private. There are definitely things that happen in public. And again, it's done to continually humiliate you, to have you in a position of not having any confidence, not having any love for yourself, not having the strength to speak up. There were countless occasions where things happened in public, and to not make a scene, I did not respond. I didn't say anything, which again gave me less power and gave him more power. And that carried throughout every moment of every day as long as I was there.
Yes. Well, did he eventually get some time for the kidnap, rape, and assault and all the other things that he did to you?
Very interesting about that. He was not captured right away because once I was able to free myself from the situation that I was in, they looked for him for several months, 6 months, and his family finally convinced him to turn himself in. He served several months in jail awaiting a trial. He was facing 25 years to life with all of the charges, and all were suspended but 12, which meant he was going to do 6. He only served 3 for good behavior.
Now, see, this is what I don't like about the justice system, is because when you have someone who's very violent to the whole community at large, who you know is a rapist, a sexual assault batterer, because he beat you and took advantage of you, held you hostage, kidnapped you, threatened you. And there's, I'm pretty sure, much more that took place
Yes.
through those 3 days of your captivity. And then they want to suspend just about the whole sentence.
Yes.
And then he get out 3 years into his sentence, and they give him good behavior. See, this is what I don't understand, and this is what I don't like about the justice system. It's because we need stronger laws. We need stronger individuals who are 100% advocate for the abuse, advocate for those who are in these type of domestic violence relationships, and advocates that are making sure that when you are a violent person, you stay locked up.
Yes.
Because once you get out, you're going to continue to intimidate and to cause harm to the community at large and to other women and children. And then eventually you become a murderer.
I've definitely heard stories, not that I've kept tabs, but, we know mutual people, and I've definitely heard that he carried on that behavior with other women.
Yes.
I believe I
believe
was the first one, but I was not the last.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, yes. I definitely believe you definitely were not his last victim. And see, that's what is so damaging with the justice system, is that, his next victim might be someone that he actually really kills.
Yes.
And see, if they would have paid attention to all the warning signs of every piece of information that you had given, then they would have let him continue to serve all of that time in prison, and there would have been no chance for good behavior, because they know how to play the justice system, because they've been doing it for so long. And they know how to talk. They know how to go in front of the parole board and say, oh, I'm taking these classes, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, oh, I understand what I did, and I'm not going to do it anymore. And all they're doing is lying. When you're dealing with an abuser, you can't trust and believe nothing they say.
I remember when my mother first met him, the very first time she met him, she stated that she didn't know what it was, but she didn't like him. And I remember my father said to me, and it sounds very simple now, but my father said, the way that a man treats his mother is the way that he would treat you. However, at 26, I thought that I was going to be the one to change him. And he was very mean and very nasty and very abusive to his mother. But I thought that I would change that behavior. But everything that I suffered in that relationship, I saw immediately. But I did not know what to do with that information. I just thought that I was going to fix and change everything.
Yeah, and that's one thing about domestic violence, is when you're in that cycle, you don't really understand what that cycle is. And so once you're so deep in, it's hard to get out.
Very hard to get out.
It's hard to break free of it, and it's hard to get away from that abuser, because, like I say, they monitor everything. They are so good. They put tracking apps on everything.
Now we're in the age of technology, which is a lot different from 21 years ago. Yes.
Yes. And you brought up a really good point, because I know when I met my daughter's murderer, I said the same thing, and I told her, I was just straight with her. I say that something is wrong with him. I said, and he's very violent. I said, so you are not safe around him. I just told her straight up. And he knew that I knew exactly who he was. And so he played that to his advantage, to try to tell her all these things about that I'm just jealous. I just don't like him. I just don't want them to be together. That little young stuff that she really didn't know anything about, because, she was not involved in dating various boys. And so she was a good girl. She was at home, and she didn't see any violence at home either. And so he really took advantage of her in so many ways. And
predators have a way of recognizing certain signs about people.
Yeah.
Either it's low self-esteem or very innocent, someone that has not had a lot of exposure or very worldly,
Yeah.
they have a way of recognizing something that they can hone in on.
They do.
And they bring you in very slowly. And once that they believe that you're secure with them, then they begin to change again, very, very slowly.
Yeah, they do. They do. And for everyone who's listening in, I want everyone to understand and to know that more than 3 women are murdered a day in domestic violence relationships. And so we have 50 states that we're dealing with. And 5 times 3 is 15. So we're looking at 150 women per day who are losing their lives. And just to go a little further with this is that now the numbers have increased. This is what's been reported now through the Department of Justice. But the numbers have increased because of the rapid rate of violence and murders that have been taking place over the last 2 years now with domestic violence, that the numbers have increased, and we're waiting on that new data to show us what the new numbers are. But as we know now, even in our state, we know that the number is more than 3 a day. And so, if we're looking at more than 3 in our state, look at how many others in the other 49 states that are being murdered every day in these type of domestic violence relationships. So this is something that we need to really, really report.
And once, sorry to interrupt you, and once reported, you have to stand by your decision and understand that it is not your fault. I believe that both parties contribute, and I don't mean that it's the woman's fault, but what I mean by contribution is, if you know it's not right, stand your ground.
Yes.
Stay strong and get out. If you have been hit, if you have been abused mentally or physically once, it will happen again. And as long as you allow it, it will continue. And one thing that I said, when you came to visit our school, love does not hurt.
That's right.
It doesn't hurt. It doesn't make you feel small. It's not belittling. It's not supposed to be something that causes you not to want to look at yourself in the mirror.
And that's right. That's right. And so this is why I told the students as well, and I tell everyone whom I work with, is that when you get those protective orders, keep those protective orders. Don't ever drop them protective orders, because they will do everything in their power to beg you, plead to you, everything to drop those protective orders, because then it's a tag they have to wear. So now if they get pulled over for reckless driving, or if they run a red light or whatever the issue may be, then they got a flag now that states that they're a violent person. And see, that's something that they don't want on their record, is that they are a domestic violence abuser, that they abuse women. But you know what, ladies? Put it on them. If they put their hands on you, then you put that tag on them, because they should wear it. They should not ever abuse you, and don't ever drop your protective order. And one thing about it is that when you drop those protective orders and you go back again to try to get another one, you don't know what that judge is going to say. That judge might not even care if you're going to die within the next 30 to 40 minutes. So it's very important for these women to understand, you do not ever drop those protective orders.
In my case, with my protective order, I was dealing with a person that did not care what the law said.
Yeah.
That did not care what a piece of paper said. He said he was going to do whatever he wanted to do, and it was either going to be them or him. So in many cases, a protective order still does not protect you. So when you know that you're in danger, you have to get out. For me, it was just, I remember I contacted the police so much that over the phone, they knew my voice. They knew who I was, regardless of which shift, regardless of what officer. And they would come out and say, well, what did he do this time? And it always seemed to be no witnesses. I was the only person that could attest to what he did.
Yeah.
He was very, very smart in that way. And I remember a police officer told me, you may have to do something very drastic, because I've been around for a long time and a piece of paper is not going to stop him.
Yeah. And see, this is what happens when you get the ones who are so controlling, the ones who don't care, the ones who just want to do what they want to do because they think that they're so much bigger than the law. Because the law, every time they come out, they don't never handcuff him and lock him up for breaking the protective order. So, if the justice is not doing anything, to show them that we are the justice system, we make these rules, and if you break them, there are consequences. And if they're not doing anything about it to protect you, of course he's going to feel that I can continue to do this if I want to.
Yes.
And that's another reason why I tell women that in certain times, for example, in your case where you were kidnapped, if you have a protective order and then your family realizes that you've been missing or that you've been kidnapped, that's one thing that can activate them to look for you, is because they know that this is a victim of domestic violence. So you never know what circumstances might occur and that come up, and that piece of paper can be one thing that can start the real activation of them looking for you. And hopefully they find you and find you alive.
Yes.
Wow. And so every 9 seconds, ladies, every 9 seconds, a woman is beaten by her boyfriend or her husband. So as you see, these numbers are very close to the sexual assault numbers as well.
Yes.
Because in domestic violence relationships, there are sexual assaults that occur as well. So these numbers coincide with each other very, very well. So as you know, that if you are being assaulted by someone, that's domestic violence that they're committing against you as a person. So please understand, report it. It's not your fault. Get the help that's needed. And some resources that are available for women who have been sexually assaulted or in domestic violence relationships are counseling services and resources and safe shelters and places that can provide safety in emergency situations. So please understand that you have to get out. Don't stay, because these men who abuse you don't love you, don't care for you, and don't know what love is. So as I said, I believe that God has ordered your steps.
Absolutely.
Because God knows exactly when to give you the voice that's needed for you to, especially to be on this type of show where you know that this show is dedicated to healing hearts, minds, and souls of those affected by abuse and domestic violence. So again, I just want to thank you very much for being a voice for women and teen girls who are listening.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're very welcome. So ladies, please understand that if you are in a relationship with anyone who's controlling, anyone who's restricting your relationships, anyone who's jealous or showing any type of possessiveness, anyone who won't take no for an answer, anyone who has a very explosive temper, anyone that make and break promises all the time, and one who is self-destructive, and anyone who shows fear and threats, and one who's physically harming you, that all of these are signs of domestic violence. Please remember, you can reach out to the National Domestic Violence Hotline, and you can also reach out to RAINN, and they can provide help that's needed in emergency situations. You all are loved. God has ordered your steps as well, and we want everyone who has been a victim to become an advocate for yourself and for others, and to speak up, because this is the only way that we can break this silence, is by all of us speaking up and helping and loving each other.
And sharing your story is very important. I can say that as an instructor, there are definitely times, because I encounter lots of people, men and women, and I have students that have had sisters or mothers in that situation as students themselves. So there has definitely been a need to be able to share, to show people that you can overcome and you can become strong, and there is such a thing as a healthy, loving relationship.
There is. And so lastly, before we leave, I would like to read Psalms 23. Psalms 23 says, "The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He restores my soul. He guides me in path of righteousness for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and love will follow me all the days of my life. I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. So this is to let anyone know any type of violence you are experiencing, any type of fear that you are feeling, any type of intimidations, any type of threats that anyone has put on you. Remember, God says in Psalms 23 that fear no evil because I am God and I will take care of you. And he has ordered your steps.